What would have took days, took only a few dozen minutes to reach Chesunthuk town. A humble fishing town presiding over the great Chesunthuk Lake, a lake that is created by the abundance of rivers and streams flowing out of the land of many valleys. The mayor isn't happy that you both are here. She doesn't like the idea that she is accused of being incompetent. She feels it's because she's a woman. However, she's at the end of her rope, and with the townspeople turning against her, she has no choice but to concede with the Duke's rule and give you whatever you ask.
I start by being civil and stick out my hand for a shake.
With no expressions, she just turns away for your hand and walks behind her desk. She sits in her chair with cold eyes waiting for your next move.
Okay then, I ask for the case files and for assistance.
You are given 2 patrolmen, portly twins named Deed and Dunn. They are to escort and aid you with the investigation to the end. From the looks of them, your first impression is they're more the comedy relief. You were also told that any clues and notes from Detective Road would be with him, but so far what is known, the disappearance seems to be random and the victims has no connections with each other. Anybody could be taken.
I looked at them in acknowledgement, and asked them to take me to Rhodes' home.
The twins agreed and escorts you out of the mayor's office.
I give proper goodbye to the governor, and leave her office.
She sees you, then looks down at a file on her desk. She doesn't like you.
As the twins and I walked down the hall away from her view, in polite and courtesy manner, I shake their hands.
They return in gesture and continue to escort you out of the mayor's mansion to the horse and buggy. A carriage that was pushed behind by a capall, a large breed of horse, bred by the giants of the Emerald Plains. You are off to solve this case, while the Duke's coin and his guard stays behind, to do a full audit of the town's financial dealings. The Duke wants his counselor to know how legit everything is. Time passes. The twins took you to the mid-class part of town, where Rhodes had resided, which is a rented room in a quaint little inn on top of the hill. Your first thought upon entering it was your typical bachelor's pad, bleak and unkept. The owner, a cute frail elderly lady, informed you that Rhodes had lived here for some time, but hardly used it. Most of the time he was out working long hours and was hardly seen for days. But the time he was here, he was friendly and caring for her, helping to fix and upkeep the inn. He was like an adopted son.
I use my lichen senses and look around for clues.
You look around for clues, but only find a pile of notes on the loan table. They contain information that everybody in the whole town had already knew, which was nothing significantly new. You smell that the detective hasn't been here since his disappearances, but you also smell a faint scent of a female at the same timeline. It didn't belong to any women in the inn, but you do think it's familiar.
I use ghost eyes to see if Rhodes' spirit or any is lingering.
You don't see or sense his presence, but you do see a ghost of an elderly man standing at the doorway.
Look for the twins.
Deed and Dunn are in the room with you, clumsily looking for clues. It is clear that they don't know what they're doing.
I tell them to wait in the living room. Right after, I close the door and ask the old man about Rhodes.
He replied that a couple of days ago, a hooded woman had slipped a letter under his door, hours before he came home. Shortly after, he rushed out and he was never seen again.
I ask if the letter was still here.
The old man pointed to it on the table and asked what happened to Rhodes.
I tell him that he is missing, as I read the letter.
The old man was sad, saying he liked him and felt he was a good lad for this inn, and Sybil the owner. You read the letter. It looked like some form of ancient manuscript, written in a primitive language and pictogram. The only words you could read was, Chesunthuk village.
I used my ghost powers to do a psychometry.
There is some form of magic preventing the memories from coming through. The images are too distorted and random to make any sense of it, but the one image repeating is a faint blurry symbol of a skull with horns.
I try again.
It is the same repeating images, but now it gives you a headache. Knowing the psychoscopy has its limits, especially when there's a magic block, you have no choice but to stop. However, it did make you look at the floor rug you're standing on. Next to it was a name of one of the victims.
I roll the rug aside to find out what else is underneath it.
You find the rest of the victims' names written all over, each with a line connecting to Chesunthuk village. Right above it was a drawing of a black goat's head with Cult of the Skull.
I ask the old man if he knows any of this.
He hasn't heard of that cult before, but he does recognize the symbol. It is the pagan god the Black Pan, the Lord of the Woods. As far as the village, before this town was founded, it was actually the first settlement built near the Great Lake. It was up in a nearby valley called the Black, but it was flooded during the Great Storm, eons ago. It had rumors that the ancient settlers there were into the dark arts. He remembers hearing it being called the Coven of Chesunthuk, or the Chesunthuk Witches. Some believe that's why the village was flooded by the 100-day rain. Now, it's just a pond, the Black Pond.
Seems to be a good old man. I had to ask why he hasn't moved on into the after.
He tells you this used to be his home. He was born here and raised in this large house. When they found out his wife couldn't have children, they converted the house to an inn. He looks around the room, reminiscing the past. This used to be his room when he was a wee lad. He looks at you, telling you he's just waiting for his wife, Sybil, and they'll go to the after together. He then looks straight in your eyes and asks if you ever slipped into the after.
I nod and told him they'll be happy.
He smiled in relief.
Since he cared about Detective Road, I wait for the right moment to ask if he could do something for me.
The twins were waiting in the lobby for a while when you finally came down the stairs. You all stepped out of the inn and head for the horse and buggy. Deed and Dunn ask in unison for the next move.
I asked them what their take of everything.
They shrug and gave outrageous claims, such as UFOs and chupacabras. They seemed too dumb to know anything.
I tell them never mind, and ask them if they know Chesunthuk village.
Being on a scenic hill, they both pointed over the houses and at the vast lake to a valley, where there's a slight river opening. Deed said that it was deep within that valley, then whimpered. The Black Dunn continued that the village was destroyed by a flood during the Great Rain long ago. It's nothing but a haunted pond now, then whimpered. The Black Pond. Deed said it would take at least half a day on horse to traverse there, less on boat. Dunn said nobody sails there no matter what. Then they both said in frightened tone, boatmen have strict superstitions.
I look at the height of the sun for the time.
The sun is past its highest peak, indicating it's well past noon.
The day is half done. I look at them with a serious face and bluntly tell them to take me to the harbor before stepping into the buggy.
The twin just looked at each other in fear.